So this is the Go Guide podcast. We're here with Rob Anderson. He is the owner of Bucket List Fly Fishing, Pyramid Lake Fly Fishing, Reno Fly Fishing, as well as Tahoe Fly Fishing. Did I get all of those correct?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
So a busy man who knows a lot about a lot of different fisheries. We're super excited to have you on. Talk a little bit about what you've been putting together on the peacock bass side of things, as well as all of your other awesome experiences that people would love to hear about. So super excited, Rob. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Phil. No, this is awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Nice.
So, yeah, hopefully we don't screw it up too bad,
I'm sure we'll figure it out. I love to start out by just kind of asking the generic question of what's been your experience into the fly fishing industry, and where did it start? What was kind of that catalyst to get you out on the water with a fly rod?
Great question. So I grew up in Virginia, mainly a conventional angler, bass fisherman, and I moved out west in 1995 to South Lake Tahoe. I had done some fly fishing when I was a kid with little popper bugs and some bass ponds, but not much. I moved out here. I conned my ex-wife into moving out to a ski resort for the winter after college, and we did that. We drove across the country and kind of took up the that lifestyle for a few years. So I played golf in college, and I worked at a big, huge retail golf store in Virginia after college for a little while. And when I got to South Lake Tahoe, I got a job at Heavenly Ski Resort, which is why I came out. I wanted to work at a ski resort, and then, finding that there's not too many year-round jobs doing that. So they kick you out when the snow melts. So I went and talked to the head pro at the golf course in South Lake Tahoe and told him who I was. And my retail background got me a job there. Because it's a resort course that sells T-shirts, and golf shirts. They don't give a lot of lessons and stuff. And I had very little experience in that side, but I, had the retail thing. So anyway, that happened. 5 years, I did that. I went back and forth from Heavenly to Edgewood Golf Course. And the fifth spring, my wife and I moved to Reno, and I had a bad accident fly fishing on the Yuba River, and I broke my ankle, snapped it around backwards.
Wow.
That happened in March of a million years ago. Anyway, I had to give up my job at the golf course, and I spent the summer rehabbing and learning how to walk again and everything, and still got a bunch of screws in my foot. So I started hanging out at the original Reno Fly Shop, and at the time they had a summer store called Truckee River Outfitters. So that's what I did. I rehabbed, I walked, and I hung out in the fly shop. And anyway, the next thing I knew, it was September, and the manager of the Reno Fly Shop, I was in there one day, and he was working the store by himself, and all the guides and all the employees had taken off and gone steelhead fishing and left him there by himself. So the next day, I was an employee of the original Reno Fly Shop because I knew how to run a cash register, and I think I worked there a month before the owner actually knew I was an employee. So that's what happened. And that next spring, after working there all winter, I was offered a job managing the shop, and I did so for 10 years. So in a nutshell, that's what happened.
Nice. And what was your experience like managing a shop, and what were kind of like the trials and tribulations going along with having to manage a shop? Was it a lot of guiding? Was it a lot of retail? What did that look like?
The original Reno Fly Shop, when I started working there, was known as one of the top one or two fly shops in the country. The second year I worked there, I think one of the fly fishing magazines started doing a Fly Shop of the Year award. And the Reno Fly Shop, little bitty Reno Fly Shop, won the very first Fly Shop of the Year award over some of the crazy big shops like the Fly Shop in Reading and the one down in just lots of competition. So to me that's respect, and voted on by people in the industry and stuff. And so when I came in, it was I went back to being a peon, and it was kind of a step back for me, managing retail stores and big golf shops and stuff. And I was the box opener, man. I opened UPS boxes, and I was a sponge. Somebody would come in the front door and say, how do we catch a fish on the Truckee River? And I would say, you know what? I don't know, but I know who does. And I'd walk the guy over to Dave Stanley or Andy Burke, or, one of our rock star employees or owners. And I would say, this guy wants to know how to catch a fish on the Truckee River. And I would sit there and take it all in. And, I did, I think, a really good job listening to people in the industry that were solid. And so my job when I came in was more of a role of, managing inventory and sales and the retail side of it, which fit me perfect because I didn't have to know how to go catch a fish on the Truckee River to succeed. And they didn't have to worry about, how to reply to an email or build a website or any of that kind of stuff. So it was pretty quick, pretty cool marriage we had there. And, everybody kind of had their own little roles. And it was amazing, and unfortunately with the changing in the times with online sales and box stores and, the rest, it became impossible to maintain the quality of a store like that. And, it's been gone for 13 years.
And what do you think kind of led to you guys being that first fly shop of the year? Like, what was the energy in the first Reno fly shop that kind of led to everybody loving it so much and it having such a high standard?
That's a great question, and it's very simple. The two or three main people in the shop when I started there. One, the owner, Dave Stanley, one of the most amazing human beings of all time. I've many times told Dave that every time he walked in the front door of the fly shop, he cost himself $1,000 just because he's nice. And, if he just get out of the way and, but it starts there and just how relaxed everybody was in the shop. And then we had a guy that was managing the retail, the store part of the operation named Andy Burke, who at the time was Mick Jagger of fly fishing, basically. I mean, everybody came to see Andy, and we'd go to fly fishing shows and it became a joke after a while. I'd be standing there, managing a show or even answering the phone at the shop and, good morning, Reno Fly Shop. This is Rob. Is Andy there? I mean, like, yeah, hold on a minute. It was just amazing. And I think that, and what I remember from when I first got into fly fishing before I worked there and going to other fly shops, what I can look back now and say is, I think, and being in the golf industry, same. It's a sports industry where people are proud of their skill level. And in a fly shop setting, when there's a stupid question answered or a stupid question asked, the question's only as good as the person you're asking it to. And, that shop had people that would bend over backwards to do anything for you to help you out. And, that to me was the difference, just the attitude day in and day out of the people that worked in that shop for sure. And just the knowledge. I mean, there was, there's not a question that couldn't have gotten answered in that shop when we were all there together.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of awesome customer service, especially. And so going from there, you stayed in the same area, I assume, opening up your own businesses. What was kind of the transition from managing a store, managing something that's already there, and then actually going to build something of your own and having to kind of go through those steps and motions?
So when I first started working at the fly shop, I'll back you up a little bit so that the story makes sense. We're the fly shop for Pyramid Lake. It's the closest one. It's Reno, Nevada, and so when I first started working there, people would come from out of town and come into the fly shop, and I'd spend 15 minutes, 45 minutes, half an hour teaching these people how to fish at the lake. And it just seemed like, being in retail for this many years, like I'm paying my employees more money, to talk to one customer for a small sale It's like, why aren't we taking these people fishing? Why are we guiding them in the fly shop? Basically, is what we were doing. And the answer was, oh, it's an Indian reservation. Ooh, you can't get a guide license out there. Blah blah. I was like, well, I'll go talk to them. What the heck? What are they gonna do? So I went to a tribal council meeting in 2001 for the Paiute tribe at the lake, and about halfway through the meeting, I meet the tribal councilman, the chief, the head guy, and we're on a break, and we're in the men's room, and we walk out, and he goes, "Hey man, what are you doing here?" Stuck out like a sore thumb, blonde, short, fat, white dude. And I was like, I'm a fly fishing guide. I run a fly shop here in town, and I want to ask, you guys about taking people fishing out here. That's why I'm sitting here. And he goes, well, how's that work? It's like, well, we do it all over anyway. We have the largest guide service in the area, and we're not taking customers to your lake because we don't have this opportunity now. And I want to show you how it's costing you business and how everybody could benefit. Go back in after the break. I was the last thing on the docket in like a 4-hour meeting. I was going to sit there forever. I was going to be drooling in the back pew, basically. And this guy was cool, man. He gets up and he says, hey, Rob. I goes, hey, I got Rob here. He doesn't need to sit here and listen to why, such and such got a ticket for going 80 and a 30 and, and they kicked out of their house and didn't pay their rent. He goes, let's talk to Rob for a minute. So I gave my speech. This is what we want to do. And the council, 10 people, said, this sounds like a great idea. Write us a check for $1,000 and you're in. So 2001, the Reno Fly Shop got the first ever guide permit to be a fly fishing service at Pyramid Lake. And that's kind of how the whole guiding thing and the whole managing the shop thing got started for me. So
no, that's a great part of the story to know. So you really are the person that opened up Pyramid Lake for guides to be able to be there, make money off of it, as well as allowing the Indian reservation to make money off of people being able to go onto their land and fish it, which is, I think, incredible. That's an awesome thing to hang your hat on.
It's pretty cool because there's still 5 or 6 people that are out there that either work for the tribe in the fisheries department or a ranger or somebody at the lodge, a bartender, or whatever, that have been here the whole time with me. We got 20 years of camaraderie out there, at the lake. And some of the local fishermen go back, 20 years before I was ever out there, so it's been pretty cool. It's, very grateful to have that opportunity for sure.
Absolutely. What year was that again that you mentioned? 2001?
2001 when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, there was a couple tribal members that had boats and did like trolling, conventional guided trips, but, nothing like what we do out there now.
Yeah. And how has the fishery changed since 2001? What have you seen as far as kind of the fishery changing over time?
So that again is a fantastic question because it has changed and is still changing a lot. When I first started fishing out there, and say all of the years leading up to when I started, which was my first trip to the lake, maybe 1998 or something like that, it was all shooting head setups, fast sinking lines, pulling woolly buggers along the bottom, and wintertime fishery. There was one strain of cutthroat trout in the lake, a Lahontan cutthroat trout, and between the 3 hatcheries that were putting fish in the lake every year, 2 on the reservation and 1 by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they were stocking somewhere between 1 and 2 million fish a year in the lake. The strain of fish that were put in the lake dating back to the 1950s is called the Summit Lake strain of Lahontan cutthroat trout. And most of the fish from that species would get kind of stunted in growth in somewhere between the 18 and 22, 23, 24 inch mark. Some of them didn't, some of them broke out of that, range and there were 10, 12, 15 pound fish in the lake, but they were few and far between back, 25 years ago. But there was tons of fish in the lake for a few reasons. One, because the fish back then were all smaller. They didn't eat each other nearly as much. The cost of raising these fish was minimal, and they were dumping piles of them in the lake. So in, I think 2002 or three, we were coming back from Crowley Lake, which is a prolific midge fishery, and it's indicators and midges. And we were coming back, and we had our rods rigged up. We weren't doing very well down there, so we pulled into Pyramid Lake, and I think it was maybe late April. And we're stripping our woolly worms across the bottom, and I get bored of doing this, and so I go grab my Crowley Rake rig, and I throw it out there, and next thing my indicator goes under, and then again and again and blah blah blah. And the next thing you know, pretty much all we're doing in the springtime is fishing indicator rigs with midges out there. So back then it was feasible to have, I mean, I have personally had a day when I could say that my indicator went under over 100 times. It was a numbers fishery. We had fly club outings where we'd have 12 people catch 500 fish in a day. But every fish was 18 inches, 19 inches, 20 inches, 19 inches, 20 inches, 19 inches. And it was just one after the other. We used to have a saying, because every once in a while you catch a 5-pounder, a 10-pounder, whatever, but very every once in a while. So we had a saying back there that it was cookie cutter, cookie cutter, cookie cutter, bang, and you catch the same fish 10 times and then, oh, there's one that's a little different. Mm-hmm. So anyway, back then, all of those fish in the spring would swim to the shallows in the lake and basically swim around the shallows in late February, all of March, most of April, until they found a spawning stream to swim up. There's an artificial stream at the lake, and just about every fish was hatched in that stream or ran up that or knows about it, the smell of the water coming out of it. And so in March and April, millions of fish are coming to this one area at the lake. And it's, I mean, when you're stripping woolly worms across, sometimes you're snagging them in the side. There's so many of them. I mean, there's fish everywhere. I mean, it's like a zoo, an aquarium. They're all over. So March and April was absolutely the only time that you wanted to spend money to come to the lake. So in 2006, they started and introduced a second strain of Lahontan cutthroat trout in the lake. It's called the Pilot Peak strain, and it came from a mountain range out in eastern Nevada. And they studied it for a long, long time, 15 or 20 years, and then finally put it in the lake. And they are deeming that this fish is way more closely related to the original strain of fish in the lake back before, without getting into a long story, there was a die-off in the 40s, and we started over with the fish. Mm-hmm. So now they put a second strain of fish in the lake. 2013, 7 years later, I caught a 24-pound Lahontan cutthroat trout. The second strain, the 2006 strain. I can't tell you when that fish was put in the lake, but the maximum amount of years that fish could have been alive is 7 years. And it was 24 pounds. Mm-hmm. So the second strain now all of a sudden has got people's eyes big. They got more people coming to the lake. We've got, our guide service is going through the roof. We've still got all these summit strain fish from all these big stocking years in the lake. So we're catching 30, 40, 50 fish a day, but we're catching 4 or 5 big ones, and, and everything's going nuts. And we went through a long period of time, probably from 2013 or 14 starting, and it just get better every year up until about COVID. Mm-hmm. So they changed the stocking program throughout those years towards the end, and they're now putting in about 20% of the Summit Lake strain fish in the lake as they did in 2003, say. And they're also putting in the second strain about the same amount. But total, they're putting in maybe a third, maybe a fourth of the fish as they used to. So one, there's less fish in the lake. Part of the reasoning was these new fish are growing so fast, they're eating everything in the lake. We don't want to run out of minnows. We don't want to deplete, the food source in the lake. So they were very careful. And then we had COVID years. We had situations where maybe there was a year or two where no fish got put back in the lake at all, a drought year where couldn't run a hatchery. And so Now there's very few of the Summit Lake strain fish in the lake. When you show up in March and April to the spawning area and look around, you see 5% of the fish that we used to see 15 years ago. 6 or 7 years ago, 8 years ago even, we were still seeing pretty big numbers, but those fish are starting to die off now. And when we saw those big numbers, we were still seeing really good numbers of the big 10, 15, 20-pound fish because they were eating all these little ones in the shallows in March and April. Now, March and April is still really good fishing. It's still the spawn. It's still a great time to go to the lake. But this new strain of fish does not do what the old strain does. They do not show up in the shallows in March and April to spawn. They chase minnows around a whole lot more. They're more voracious. They grow faster. They have to eat more. And it's a different fish. You know, I wish they weren't both called Lahont and cutthroat trout because everybody thinks it's the same thing, you know. So anyway, I just got done with an article about this. It's on pyramidlakeflyfishing.com, our website. And it basically explains what I just told you kind of in short. And we are really targeting taking people fishing now in October, May, and June. We do outings. We've got 2 outings planned for the first 2 weekends of October this year, and then we'll be really busy doing them again in June. But the average size fish is 3 times bigger this time of year. The fish fight twice as hard. You're fishing in shorts. You know, you're sitting in a camping chair, having a beer on the beach, not freezing your butt off. I mean, it's just, you know, if you do the pros and cons list on a piece of paper and you write them all down, I'll see you in June. I'll see you in October. So anyway, that's my story.
Gotcha. And how did you find that this was kind of the shift that was happening? Like, what was happening in the fishery that made you see that, all right, June, October, like these times are better? Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, when they start the hatchery up in late March or early April, when you look in the runway and you look at all the fish in there, you know, knowing that there's both fish in the lake, when you look in the runway and you see 95, 99% of the fish are those Summit Lake strain, it starts to make sense that, wow, these fish just don't do this. They just don't come here. So we started kind of looking to how we could catch them. And, you know, being out there in the summer sun, playing around, doing some water skiing and stuff and seeing the big bait balls on the surface, it was like, well, let's go try to fish around those bait balls sometime. Well, the minnows are, you know, at the surface and findable really when the water's warm. In the middle of the winter, you got to find the minnows in 200 feet of water. So it's not possible, you know, to fly fish for, you know, around bait in the winter. So we were going out there like October 1st. You know, we used to do trips all the time in early season just to go out there and camp because the lake was open, and, you know, you'd hear splashing in the middle of the night and the full moon and fish crushing bait out in the lake and stuff. And just, you know, just being out there for all those years, more or less, we just discovered a little bit more about what to do every year. And, you know, we've got it dialed in pretty good now. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I got to experience it myself and I had a blast. You guys have an awesome program. So tell me a little bit about what it's been like to build that business. What's kind of been the secrets to success, some challenges that you've faced? What would you say has kind of been that experience for you?
So when I got the guide license at the Reno Fly Shop, you know, fly fishermen, especially way back in the day, think of fly fishing with moving water, rivers, streams, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, convincing somebody to go to a high desert, you know, lake that looks like you're standing on the moon, it's a hard sell. So a lot of our guides at the Reno Fly Shop weren't interested in that. And then, you know, coming back with stories of 30 fish days and, you know, easy guiding, big tips, all that kind of stuff, more of the guides wanted in. So towards the end of me being there and the Reno Fly Shop being open, I built the current website, pyramidlakeflyfishing.com, to target clients outside of getting them all from the phone ringing in the fly shop. Because when they rang in the fly shop, I kind of had to share them. So if I dreamed them up myself, per se, they were mine. So that's how the website got started. because I was trying to capture more of the business to keep myself busy. And for the fly shop's purposes, Pyramid being that kind of off-season fishery, managing the shop, it wasn't so hard me being gone in the June and July when we're slammed in the shop all day and that kind of thing. So um, that's kind of how I transitioned. And when the shop closed at the end of 2010, I already had a platform to kind of keep going. And it was fairly seamless at the time. One of the guides that worked with me at the Reno Fly Shop came along with me to help me. And the two of us guided for, 5 or 6 years by ourselves out there. I was a lot younger then, man. I can't even believe some of the stuff we did. Two of us guiding 12 people on a 500 fish day. No chance I could do that anymore. But anyway, so, and my guide service has grown throughout the years. I've had as many as 5 guides working at the same time out at the lake. And I think for me, having that platform of coming out of the Reno Fly Shop gave me a situation where it was easy to transition and have a customer base. And then, doing fishing reports for the Reno Fly Shop and people knowing me in the area for what I did there, made it pretty easy. And a lot of what I did was before the fly shop closed. I have clients dating back, I have a couple fly clubs that I still take fishing, that I've had for 17, 18 years out there.
Wow. Awesome. And so you keep kind of bringing up this part of your experience with websites and fishing reports. It sounds like you've kind of found a place in the tech side of the fly fishing industry, interestingly enough. How did that come about? How did you get into it? How were you successful doing the website side of stuff?
So when I got the job at the Reno Fly Shop, they had no web presence at all. 2000, I think it was, 2001, whatever. So I opened my mouth and said, "Hey, we need a website." And then the answer was, "Okay, build us one." And it really started like that. I had a friend who was doing this on her own part-time, just kind of dabbling in it. And I went down to her house about 2 or 3 nights a week for a while. And next thing you know, we had our first Reno FlyShop.com website.
Wow.
And then that ran that one, made all the changes and did that with my friend for all those years. And then I built myself the pyramidlakeflyfishing.com website. Then as I got involved in the peacock bass industry, I built a website for that. And now with an international travel business, I think I've been involved now in putting together 7 or 8 different fishing websites. I don't do all the work anymore. I'm not real good at the part of it that is very important, where you have to worry about things like your placement on pages for search bars and blah, blah, blah. That, I'm really good at the creative side, the content, writing stories about people or fishing and all of that. So, that's basically my job when we go to do a new project is, I do the creative part and somebody else does all of the, the stuff that makes it look pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the creative part's the most important, I would say. So, well, you touched a little bit on this, and I've been excited to hear more about bucket list fly fishing and how that started, what the experience is going out there with you guys. Like, I would love to hear all about it and how that all works.
So when I built that website, it's funny how your series of questions have been made it easy for me to give you kind of a progression of answers, Phil. You're doing great.
Thanks. I try.
So when I built the website for the Reno Fly Shop, not long after, I get an email from a company in Brazil. Hey, we have a peacock bass operation in the Amazon, and we don't have much of a fly fishing presence. How would you like to come check it out and see if this is something, your travel business might be interested in sending people our way? Growing up being a bass fisherman in Virginia, I knew what a peacock bass was. I've always wanted to go. It was right up my alley. Working at a place like the Reno Fly Shop, I get requests all the time. I get offers all the time. I could have went fishing, on Tom Brady's honeymoon with him working at the Reno Fly Shop. I mean, you just get invited places, right? And my conscience wouldn't always let me do it because it's like I'm going to go take this dude up on a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 trip and give him nothing. Mm-hmm. Well, here's an outfitter now that says, "Hey, Rob, do you want to come down and see peacock bass?" And I'm like, now this is something that I can probably make work. So I went, and me and Andy Burke and two of our best friends went down there, and they teamed us up with these 4 guys from Tennessee who were conventional anglers, and we fished a week in the Amazon. I've never been so homesick in my life. I had never been so far away from home, and we caught about 5 times as many fish as these veteran conventional anglers in our group did. We had them all fishing with our fly rods by the end of the trip. Wow. And so it started there. Andy and I came back to the shop and went to Dave and said, "We got to keep doing this. This is awesome. This is like, if you're a fly fisherman and you don't do this, you need to put your stuff away." So we became a booking agent for this outfitter down there. And we were running 1, 2, 3 weeks of anglers a year just as a booking agent. And Andy and I we're getting to go every year, and it's kind of our benefit for doing it. And so that happened until the fly shop closed. Mm-hmm. The last 2 or 3 years of the fly shop being open, I tried to actually build a real travel business, and it just never came to be. So when the fly shop closed, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a run at this. I'm just going to offer trips, and see what happens. So I'm at a show, and it's the year after or 2 years after the movie came out called The Bucket List, about 2 old dudes making a list of things they want to do before they die. So I'm at a show, and I've now got this peacock bass mount, and this mount I got behind me, this cutthroat trout in my show booth, and this old Asian guy comes up to me, and he looks at that peacock bass, and he's like, "That's on my bucket list." I'm like, So I go home and go to GoDaddy. Bucket list fly fishing. Available. Sold. I owned the domain for 8 years before I had time or the space in my head to figure out how I was going to put this whole thing together. In 2018, I got approached by a gentleman in the Amazon who is the most regarded outfitter in the Amazon jungle for peacock bass. He's got the largest operation, the most equipment. He's the most well-liked guy. I mean, just by chance. We actually got stuck on a sandbar, and that's how we met this guy. So anyway, he and I started talking. He's like, "I know who you are. You've been down here trying to get a fly fishing operation going, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, nobody wants to play ball. Everybody wants to, they don't want to do it like I want to do it." And he's like, "Well, I want to do it." Like, all right. So what does that look like? The next season, I sent 5 8-person groups of anglers down to the Amazon on a private river that he and I now have a lease on, that is fly fishing only. We only send usually less than 50 anglers a year to a 200-mile long river. And some of these things I just told him up front. Okay, if I'm going to do this, this is what I want. I want a river that has got sight fishing, no pressure, no other operations, that we can fish and get out and let it rest for a while and come back the next season and offer the same product. In our camps, I want to have fly fishing guides and not boat drivers. In our kitchen, I want to have meals and not buffets. I just went in and said, this is all the stuff that for 15 years I've been thinking about, and this is what it should look like. And I was like, this is how we're going to get repeat business. And for what we're doing down here, if we don't have a high percentage of repeat business, we're not going to make it. So that was 2018. 2019, we had 5 groups of anglers. We lost a season and a half with COVID. 2023, last year, we had a full season. We already have a full season. I've got like 2 spots left for 2024 in January. I got a couple guys that want to reschedule because of one of them's having a surgery. So I do have 2 spots open in January 24, and I am all but sold out for 2025 already. So the word of mouth advertising has been unbelievable, and the repeat business, like I told him, that if we did what I said we should do, it's going to happen. And the lack of fishing pressure on our rivers. Last year we had a very high water situation. Most other operations in the Amazon had to cancel their trips last season because of high water. We have a river that fishes pretty good in high water. And one of the reasons is because we don't overfish it, and it hadn't been fished in a couple years. And we had 5 weeks of anglers last year on this river, and every 8-person group caught over 2,000 peacock bass for their week of 8 people, and 2 of them caught over 3,000 peacock bass in 1 week. So if you do the math on that, it's like 500 peacock bass a day is how you get to 3,000 for 8 people. So you can do all that math down to the minute, and you can figure out that we catch a fish like every 5 minutes or something if you want to. But it's true. I'm very proud of what we're offering. I'm probably never going to get rich doing this, but it's so much fun. I've made so many friends. I'm paying my bills and just watching people have the time of their life. So it's been great, Phil.
That sounds absolutely incredible. And tell me, what's the play-by-play of the trip? What does it look like? I book a trip with you. We're booked for a certain week. What does that look like, start to finish?
Okay, so our main season is January. We start like the first week of January after the holidays. So wherever you're at, you start there, obviously. You fly to a city in the Amazon jungle in Brazil called Manaus. Manaus is the capital city of the state of Amazonas. 2.8 million people, big city. Start there, international airport, fly in. To give you an idea, I live in Reno. It's further from Reno to Miami than it is from Miami to Manaus. So it's really not too bad. You're there in a day. You get to Manaus, you stay there a day, and then the next morning, you stay one night in Manaus. The next morning, we pick you up at the hotel, and we float plane you into a river where we have our camp set up, and you stay there a week to fish. The difference in our operation and what most people would think or where they were headed is our entire operation floats in less than 6 inches of water. All of our angler cabins, our dining cabin, the whole operation. So we move it as we're fishing, as we're, spending the week in the jungle. It is constantly exploring new locations, finding fresh water, different areas to fish, chasing the water levels, whatever. For the peacock bass and all of the fish in the Amazon jungle, there is a rainy season and a dry season. When it rains, the water comes up. It floods the entire jungle. All of the fish go as far upstream as they can because the bait goes up in the trees and in small areas to hide from the big fish. So the big fish go. When it stops raining and all the water starts evaporating and running, downstream, the water levels come down. The fish have this defense mechanism. Oh my God, it's going to dry up here. They go with the flow. So everything kind of moves like a tide. Like fish go down when the water's going down. The fish move up when the water's going up. So our operation follows this whole phenomenon around these rivers and these systems to always fish in low water, where the fish are kind of trapped out in the open. They can't hide from you in the jungle. And that's why we catch 3,000 fish in a week because of that. So you fly in. We have 4 angler cabins for 8 anglers, 2 people in a cabin. They have air conditioning. They have beds with 12-inch mattresses. I mean, the mattresses are more comfortable than my bed here in my apartment. Running water, toilet, shower. I mean, all the conveniences of home. Our fishing boats are geared for both anglers to fish at the same time, which is really important when you're fishing for a predator like that. You want to have two guys ready to go at all times. Um, we've got trolling motors, pulley platforms, gas motors. Our guides are well trained. I do most of it myself when I'm down there. And our staff, our head chef, her and I have worked on a menu over the last few years. I mean, we do food like Arapaima paella and tamaki and fish tacos. It's funny, man, bringing a Mexican or Spanish dish to Portuguese or Brazilian country. They don't even know what a tortilla is, and you'd think that'd be everywhere, but yeah, it's bread there. So yeah, fish tacos in the jungle is pretty cool. But um, so what we do is so different than everybody else, and we're always going to be able to offer a product like that's top top shelf down there. And the day we can't offer that, I'm done. I'll be done. So if my name's on it, you pretty much know we're gonna have fun.
That's awesome. It sounds like an experience like no other. So I feel like people better get out there and check it out and hopefully come back year after year. Um, and it sounds like it's all because of this ability to kind of move with the fish that you were talking about. Which sounds like a particularly special. How did you set that all up? It sounds like a huge operation. We're talking running water and moving boats. How is this all working?
So my partner in Brazil lives on an island. It's a peninsula, but it looks like a round island, and he has a shipyard there. He builds all of this stuff himself, all of our cabins, all of our fishing boats. He just finished building a fuel barge, and he is one of his other businesses is he's transporting diesel and gas to outlying villages and small communities around the Amazon. Basically, just buying and selling gas. He built this. I mean, this thing is you could land a plane on this thing. It's stupid big. So, like when I said this guy has the best logistics of anybody down there, if we, like for example, I want to show these people how to make a beer can chicken. We have this grill sitting on top of this fire on the beach, but there's no top. You can't, if you know anything about cooking, you can't make a beer can chicken if you don't have a top because the top of the chicken doesn't get warm. It's just the bottom. So I was like, I drew this up. I was like, I want a hood, like you'd have in a commercial kitchen. I want a hood for our grill. I show up to the camp next season, bam, we got a hood. So I'm showing them how to, stuff Portuguese beers up chickens' butts to make, anyway. But this guy's he's amazing. So anything or any idea we come up with, there's these landlocked lagoons that maybe 1,000 years ago were connected to the river kind of thing, and now they're off in the jungle. So we put a drone up in the air to find them first because these things are like nobody even knows they're there. They're in the middle of the jungle. So there's a lagoon. It's do the coordinates. It's 100 meters from the river. So we walk in there and it's like, and we make a couple casts. We catch some fish. And it's like, crap, we need a boat. We need to be in this lagoon. So what we do, I said, hey, you know what? These boats that we have, we can push them, into a lot of places, but they're heavy. It's like a full day, you need a boat this big because you need a cooler and a gas tank and room for all your gear and stuff and everything. And I was like, but for a boat to like have in that lagoon over there, we just need it big enough for a guide and two fishermen and a little, backpack cooler or something. It's all we need. It's like, it could be 4 feet shorter. I show up next season at camp, bam, we've got these two, instead of, 18 feet boats, we've got two 14-foot little boats that we can push across dry jungle and push them into these lagoons that have never been fished before. So it's, one of my biggest peacock bass I ever caught in my life. I found it on my drone sitting in camp, and me and the camp manager walked into this lagoon with the drone in the air. I made the cast in front of this fish and caught it. So we have a lot of fun when we're down there.
It sounds like an experience like no other. So that's. I hope that people kind of hear that and are getting their mouths watering a little bit because I for one am super interested. It sounds insane. You talked a little bit about like arapaima. You talked a little bit. Is there any bycatch? Are you guys catching any other really cool species while you're out there?
Yes. We have two main rivers that we fish. Our main river is called the Surini, and we are up at the very headwaters of the river in low water is where we like to be in our season. Um, that far up the Surini, it's mainly a peacock bass fishery. But the advantages, and it's different from the fisherman I'll tell you about in a second. The advantages are for a fly fisherman, sight fishing. You know, everybody wants to catch fish that they can cast to, or top water stuff, shallow water, wade fishing, clear, all of those kind of, ideas you get in your head as a fly fisherman. But it's limited a little bit on species because of how far upstream it is. You will catch 4, 5, 6 different species of fish. Excuse me. But some of the larger ones don't make it that far up. When the water's higher there and the fishing's not as good, we have what we refer to our other river as the backup plan. The backup plan is the best river in the Amazon jungle. And it needs more water to fish better because when the water's low on other rivers, it's too low. So when our main river gets too high, it puts enough water in our backup plan to go over there. And it's just a joke that we call it that. We gave it a name, a Portuguese name, and we call it Labirinto da Tartaruga. And it stands for the turtle maze. That area in the state of Roraima where this river is the main area in the Amazon jungle where the biggest giant water turtles of the Amazon come up on sandbars and lay their eggs every year. The highest concentration of these giant water turtles. It is the most protected area of the Amazon. Environmental police in full-on bulletproof uniforms and machine guns, and I mean it's big. It's like turtle cartel kind of stuff going on. It's not that bad, but the point is this area is got a lot of turtles and it's protected and it's really cool. It's funny, trading information with some of the environmental police, man. They're always up for a bottle of rum. But anyway, so and then when you fish this place, there's so many little tributaries and you get lost like every turn, at least I do. So we got the name the Turtle Maze because of kind of the area that we're in or whatever. But it's a lot easier to say the backup plan than it is Labirinto da Tartaruga. So anyway, but so we fish one of those two rivers. And the long answer to your short question, Phil, is the backup plan is a bigger water and it has just about every species that you want to catch in the Amazon. You have an opportunity to catch maybe 15 species of fish there, including arapaima, 200-pound guys, arowana, the vampire fish, traira, which is the wolf fish, just all kinds of stuff.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Wow, so it sounds like the backup plan might be even more exciting. So I guess if you hear that we're going to the backup plan while you're out with Rob, it means we're in a good situation.
And we used to watch the fishing forecast back in the day. The weather forecast down there when it's raining. And I'm like texting on Facebook like, is it raining? What's going on? Because it's like our trip's going to get canceled. And now we've got one of the only operations down there that we're pretty much guaranteed we're going to have a season.
That's awesome. And so you said you're kind of booked up. You have a couple dates. What are those dates? Just if anybody listening is interested.
I've got 2 spots. I've actually got 4 spots available. The 14th to the 21st of January, 2024. It's a hosted week. I'll be there. My best friend in Reno will be there that week. He's a professional guitar player. And the entertainment after fishing is top shelf that week. So it's pretty fun. And the other thing that I haven't gotten a chance to tell you yet is my camp host is a Russian kid that speaks 5 languages, and you've met him, Phil. He's worth his weight in gold in these camps. He is a hoot. He's funny. Um, every night he puts on a presentation about the jungle, about the wildlife, the fishing, um, telling stories. It's just he grew up, in the working world as a eco tour guide for big cruise ships down there, and knows every bird, stick, bee, ant, tree, you name it. The guy, he's either got an answer or he's believable enough that you walk away with the answer.
He is an awesome guy. I can attest to that. He's wonderful to talk to and a wealth of knowledge, no matter where you're talking.
That's true.
Um, well, yeah. I guess that's kind of all the questions I have. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of announce? Anything that you would like to shed some light on that you're working on?
So, just some of the events that we're doing, I think, if people have heard this, I'm going to just tell you the fun things that we do. We're a guide service. We take people fishing every day. Normal. In October, we have 2 float tube outings. The first 2 weekends of October, separate, one or the other. We will show our clients how we fish for these giant fish. As a matter of fact, I just finished creating some new, some new minnow patterns for early season to imitate the tui chubs in the lake. So that's in October. And then our season in January in Brazil. Our eco tour, if any of you fishermen out there have wives that you kind of owe a trip to that likes wildlife or picture taking, in September, and then next May, and then next September, we run an eco tour trip in Brazil that culminates in a ghost town called Fordlandia, and dates back to the history of rubber and the original tires from the Model Ts and Henry Ford. It's pretty cool. Next spring we'll be at Pyramid Lake for all the spring, and then once the meat of the winter season at Pyramid happens in May and June, we start doing this float tube thing at Pyramid again, which will have at least 1 or 2 outings, public outings again then. And then in May next year, we go out to some reservoirs in eastern Nevada for about 2 weeks and fish at some of the most prolific rainbow trout, little small lakes in the West, 30 or 40 fish days with 2 to 5 pound rainbows. We go out there and host some people, and all of our trips, all of our outings like this, they're very food oriented. We love to cook, and we're sponsored by Traeger, and so we eat and catch fish and tell stories and play guitar, and we really try to make the whole trip a fun experience, and not just the fact that you came home and your wife beat her shirt with a picture of an 18-inch rainbow. So those are our events, and we're always doing something fun like that. And, back to what we really didn't talk about in the beginning, these exploratory trips we do, they're not exploratory to the point where, we don't know what we're doing. It's more that it's not offered commercially yet. It's somewhere we can take somebody fishing that nobody's going. Nobody's doing it as a business kind of thing. So the spots are guaranteed on the fishing. So we do that. And that's really it. And honestly, the peacock bass thing we have going, I don't know how much longer before something gets in the way, some political thing, some rule change down in Brazil or something with travel again. But I can tell you right now, it is the coolest fishing trip on the planet. And if you've ever thought about it, now is the time to explore taking a trip with us down there. And, this October, May, and June thing at Pyramid. If you go to our website, pyramidlakeflyfishing.com, the article that I just wrote about the changing conditions in Pyramid is on there. And then bucketlistflyfishing.com is our travel website, and check that out too.
Awesome. Well, I can attest to it. If you're an angler looking for an incredible experience, go check out Bucket List Fly Fishing, because you'll find some of the best experiences out there. And like Rob had mentioned, we're not just talking about catching big fish and catching a lot of fish. We're talking about an experience that's something that you can't get anywhere else. The people, the music, the food, just an incredible atmosphere to be around, as well as being able to catch more fish than you could ever dream of. So I would say that sounds pretty dang good to me. For anybody who's listening and doesn't want to do that, then I'm not interested in hanging out with you anyways. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just tell me about the ladder rentals. Tell me about everything else you do on the rental side of things.
So we started getting so busy guiding out at the lake that we started staying at the lake in campers, because the hour drive from my house to the lake and back every day on top of a 14 or 15-hour day, I was killing myself. So as we got, started doing 200, even 1 year, 300 guide trips at the lake, we just live at the lake during the peak of the season. A lot of our clients, not a lot, but some of them come in and they stay and fish 3 or 4 days. Well, they don't want to hire or pay for a guide for the entire time. So they hire us for a day or two. We show them the ropes, how to do it, everything, and then they want to fish on their own. Well, then they see the equipment we have and they're like, well, heck, man, we don't want to fish on our own anymore because you guys got the stuff. Anyway, so that turned into us basically at the beginning lending our clients our ladders after their trip, which spawned an idea 3 years ago of, why don't we make ladders available? I actually have had people pick them up at my house in Reno at the very beginning and take them to the lake and drop them back off on my, in my front yard. So anyway, we came up with the ladder rental program. Because we're all staying at the lake, it was easy for people just to stop by like my camper and pick them up and drop them off. So we started doing that. This season, I actually have a person that lives at the lake that's going to keep our inventory of ladder rentals the entire season. And our clients are going to be able to pick them up and drop them off right there, right at the lake every day. We have the chair ladders with wheels and folding for rent, and also the platform ladders, just the ones that look like step ladders with the big platform with cushions on them and stuff. But we'll have those available all season this year. And one of my guides has been staying in a utility trailer at the lake. It's a 6x12, totally covered up utility trailer. He decked it out on the inside and put a bed and a TV and a heater and a microwave, a refrigerator, and with these new solar powered batteries, you can live off the grid. In the wintertime, it's cold at the lake, it's windy, and regular like pop-up campers and regular tents and stuff, not an option, especially if you're out there every night. These utility trailers, they're bulletproof. And then you got a big door in the back if you want to open up, air it out, get some light in there. So that's what Jeremy decided. It's easy to tow with his truck. You can put it on the beaches. So Jeremy starts staying in this utility trailer, and now all of a sudden all of his clients are like, they don't want to borrow his ladder at the end of the trip. They want to borrow his trailer. So this year we are going to rent utility trailers, and you can pick them up at the lake, drive them down, stay at the beach. They've got bunk beds. You can fit 2 people. We've got propane heat, solar power for lights, coffee pot. You can charge your phone, your iPad, whatever, and fan. Traeger grill comes with it for your stay. So anyway, I just announced that 2 days ago, and I've already gotten 10 emails. People are like, well, how's that work? How's that going? This is going to be awesome, man. So on top of that, we're also now offering all-inclusive guide trips where you and your guide stay in these trailers on the beach, and he takes care of everything, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just stay there and fish the whole time. So I think with our ladder, our whole rental program, I think it's really going to be cool for, that do-it-yourself angler at the lake.
That's incredible. I think if you're a DIY angler, like that's what you want. That's what you need. You want to get your buddies, get a couple trailers, go out on the lake, have them be able to be mobile where you can move them around from beach to beach. Like that's the way to fish Pyramid Lake, especially without a guide. And if you're getting it with a guide, just add that. That sounds incredible. I'm sold. I'm in. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Well, cool. What's your experience been like with Go Guide since starting?
Dude, the thing I like the best is your guys' enthusiasm and your how you immerse yourself into the business. You know, I've had other people call me about booking companies and stuff. You know, they're sitting at a desk in New York, you know, trying to tell me how they can make it better for me. You guys are part of what you do, man. I mean, so that's why I'm still here, 100%. You know, the way that you personally reached out and just relaxed attitude about it, you know, even at the shows, just it's been fun, dude. It's been cool. You know, that's for me. That's the biggest thing. You know, as long as you guys are working on stuff and fixing it, it'll get right. You know, you understand when I say, Phil, this can't be like this. Alex is the same way. She gets it. She understands why. I can't go to some generic freaking booking company and say, you know, you got to take this off for me, you know, or fix this or make this a different way. They're gonna be like, what do you mean? You know, so no, it's all good, dude.
It's been great working with you. It's
I
been
know
great
you're trying. I know you're trying, man. I am too. You know.
That's for sure. We're all trying, and I think that we're all getting better. I think we're gonna get there, and hopefully by the end of it, it's gonna be just the biggest time saver you've ever used in your life. Well,